What is up, guys? I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're looking at r/IDontWorkHereLady. If you're new here, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe and maybe that notification bell. And with that being said, let's get straight into today's stories. Much love, guys. Our first story is from Swarm Tendon. This isn't a dog daycare at all. A while back I was working in an office that allowed dogs. It was an open floor plan, and since customers never came into the office, we kept the dogs' food and water bowls right by the front door, just because it was the most convenient place and no one else would see them but us who worked there. Of the 6 who worked in the main office, I was the only one who didn't have a dog, no pets policy at the apartment, and always felt horribly left out. To make matters worse, across the way was a doggy daycare. One day a very frantic woman came in and she had an absolute massive basset hound with her. Usually the only people who came into the office were associates who had appointments with someone working there, but it was rare they brought their dogs. She ran up to me and said, "Do you work here?" And I said, "Yes, how can I help you?" And she said, "I wasn't sure if you took walk-ins, but I read online I could just drop him off. I tried to call but no answer." I didn't know what she was talking about at that point, and I said, "Come again? Who did you call exactly?" Thinking I could saddle her off to whoever she came to see. I wouldn't have to decipher her problem. She said, "Well, it doesn't matter now. Look, something urgent's come up and I really need to leave him here. Here's his food he likes and I'll be back in a few hours." And at this point, I wasn't thinking of the doggy daycare. I thought she was maybe a friend of someone here. I said, "Well, alright, can I get your name please?" And she said her name and then asked if I needed her to sign anything. And I was so confused at this point, I just said, "Why would I need you to sign something?" And she left almost immediately. So I took Otis, the dog, to the back and showed him to my co-workers, and no one knew the woman or dog. I was worried she wouldn't come back, but at the same time, my wish for an office dog had been granted, and Otis was supremely chill. All he did all day was lie around and drool on his own ears. I just freshened him up every now and then, took him out every couple of hours, and he was happy as a clam. On a big cushy dog bed we thankfully had an extra of. He just loved attention from anywhere he could get it. At the end of the day, the woman, thank God, came back. She said, "Thanks, you're a lifesaver. How was he?" And I said, "He was a champ," and was about to say, "But why is he here?" when she said, "That's a relief. Most kennels says he gets anxious around other dogs. I heard you operated at a much higher capacity. I was thrilled to see you had so few clients in the room at one time. So, how much do I owe?" And that's when I realised she thought that we were a dog daycare. Now, I probably should have corrected her, but I love my day with the office dog and I did want to get paid for supervising this strange dog all day. I just threw out the number that sounded fair and appropriate. "That'll be $20, I said. She replied, "Really?" in this very high tone, and I couldn't tell if I'd overshot or undershot, but she paid me and left. My co-workers were laughing hysterically when they realised what had happened, and we thought it was just a good story for the future. But the next week, she came back. She said we're so much more affordable and less overcrowded than her other place, and she was just happy to use us. I was glad for the company, so just took him in. I didn't think there was any way she could have had at least some idea we weren't a dog daycare. The whole ordeal was so strange, I just figured, don't question a good thing. I was much younger and dumber then. Not long after, Otis started getting dropped off too, sometimes even 3 or 4 days a week. I was in heaven. He was such a love and made fast friends with the delivery guys and visitors. One day we took our office Christmas card photo and Otis was over that day, so we included him. In a Santa hat, it was pretty great. But it turns out Otis' owner was friends with one of our clients, who I guess happened to have a card out on a table and was kind enough to display it alongside our other holiday cards. Because one day Otis' owner came in holding a card and walked up to me and said, "I can't even believe I'm asking this, but is that my dog in this photo? This isn't a dog daycare at all. This is just an office, isn't it?" She said it with a note of surprise, as though she was looking around and putting it all together for the first time. No coincidence, that was the first time she wasn't in some crazy rush either. She was like, "Then who are all these other dogs?" And I explained. I was terrified she was going to demand her money back, or worse, take some sort of legal action against us for misrepresenting ourselves as a dog daycare business, or complain to corporate. Instead, she basically said, "Why didn't you ever say anything?" And I explained we just really liked having Otis around. She stopped for a minute and seemed to be thinking and said, "Is that right?" And I said yes, and told the story how I was the only one in the office without a dog, so loved the company. She seemed a little flummoxed or hesitant, understandably, because this whole thing was so weird. She turned to my co-worker and asked if I was telling the whole truth. I don't know why she thought my co-worker, also a stranger to her, was way more trustworthy than me. But hey, strange times. Co-worker backed me up. So she said, well, I wish you'd said something sooner. Could have saved me a lot of embarrassment with my friend back there. Alright, I have to get going. See you at 4. And she left Otis. I couldn't believe it. I said, so he can stay? And she replied, where else could I find someone to watch him one-on-one all day for $20? And off she went. Otis stayed my office dog until his family moved away. Luckily, right around the same time, I took a new job. With all this time sitting around and doing nothing, thought it was a good time as any to tell that story. Oh man, that is a great, wholesome story. You can just imagine how much you loved having that dog around. And how much that dog loved being around the office. Oh, in times like this is the wholesome story that we need. Our next story is from Mr. Big Daddy 93. Mistaken for an employee while shopping for my daughter-in-law. Wholesome. I was at the local grocery store with my service dog, doing some shopping for my daughter-in-law as she was not able to leave the house. Bed rest, about to go into labour. She had asked me to go and do the shopping, so that when she gets back from labour and delivery, there would be food in the house. So I agreed, and myself and my partner, Sparky, service dog, went to the store. We walked in, and I no sooner get the buggy, Sparky starts alerting me to calm down, so I make my way to an area that is off to itself, out of the way of other shoppers, and took 45 minutes to get myself together. I did not know where I'd been sitting was a staff only area, but I found out as soon as I walked out of the area. An older gentleman came up to me and started asking where this, that and the other was. Since I knew the store like the back of my hand, I decided to assist him with his mission. Plus, he did ask me nicely, so no problem. We're going through the store, he is getting his things, and I am getting what DL, daughter-in-law, has on the list. We get produce and a lady comes up to me. I would call her NL, nice lady for short. NL says, excuse me young man, where is the strawberries? I've been looking for someone to help me, but there is never anyone around when you need them. I said, I'm sorry mum that you're having a hard time finding someone to help you. Even though I don't actually work here, I do believe the strawberries are over one display. She was very apologetic and said, oh, I'm so sorry to bother you. I just thought that you did work here. I'm so very sorry to bother you. The older gentleman then says, what, you don't work here? Then why would you help me with my shopping? I said, sir, because you asked nicely, plus my mama would tan my britches if I didn't help you after you asked so politely. Both OG and NL laughed at that statement, and OG said, well, I guess it was my own fault. I've never seen an employee with a dog before. Why'd you have a dog in the store for, sonny? I said, here's a service dog. He helps me cope with civilian life. When you saw me come out of that area, he had been getting me to calm down, so I could get my son and daughter-in-law some groceries before she goes and has my first grandchild. OG says, you do realise that area is for staff only. That's why I thought you were staff, and congratulations on the new child. Well, I won't hold you up any longer. Thank you for helping an old man like myself. Then he left to go to the checkout. The nice lady then says, well, I think your mama raised a wonderful gentleman. I was going to ask you about your dog, but I understand. I work with veterans, so I know how hard it is to adjust back to a civilian life. Keep being strong. Your children and grandchildren need you. Then she gave me a hug after she asked and left. After that, me and Sparky went to the checkout and went back to my son's house with the groceries. I told my daughter-in-law what took so long, and she laughed. 1 week later, she gave birth to a baby boy, 7 pounds 10 ounces, and that was a year ago. God, that's what I kind of love about I Don't Work Here Lady. You get lots of wholesome stories in there. And as I said in the last one, in times like this, we need a bit of wholesome in our life, right? Our next story is from Ajiri Tai. It happened at a bar. Wholesome. I don't usually visit Reddit very often, unless I have something to say or do, and by do I mean looking at memes and giggling like a young child after telling a bad fart joke. This time around, I have something to say, and it's about a local bar I was at last night with my boyfriend and both of my roommates. This whole household is fully aware I'm severely hard of hearing, but I claim to be deaf because I understand verbal language about as well as a deaf person, though this had led me to the opportunity to speak with speech therapy in my youth, to speak very, very well. This is important. So we're at our table, I'm drinking Jack and Cokes while the hubby and one roommate is drinking beer, the last remaining roommate drinking soda because he's driving. That soda drinking roomie is the one taking care of grabbing the drinks because for some reason he enjoys getting me drunk, thinks I'm more hilarious when I'm drunk. I don't know, I just enjoy getting shit-faced. So I'm sitting at our table, signing a very long joke about a story called Voodoo Dick, and deliver the punchline. The two roommates burst into laughter, and I've never heard the joke before, though my hubby has heard me tell it verbally and signed a few times before. Note, our table was just completely signing, myself included, but yes, I can use my voice. Some man, maybe in his mid-50s, taps me on the shoulder and signs, "Are you verbal at all?" To which I sign back, yes. I noticed the older gentleman had cochlear implants. I asked, "You have CI, you not here?" He responds, "Too noisy in here, need sound break, hate talking, people think I'm stupid." At this point it clicks, oh, he's got a deaf accent. Granted, I used to have a deaf accent when I was young, prior to 7 years of speech therapy. I signed to him, "I'm deaf too, but my roommate will help you order," which said roommate really didn't mind, he had a soft spot for disabled folk. I signed to my roommate, he's deaf and needs help ordering a drink, help him, and my roommate signs, "Sure," and he gets up from his seat and gestures for the older man to follow him to the bar. He helps the older man order his drink, and gets the bartender to give him a pen and paper so he can write down his orders later, in case he decides he wants to get more, informing the bartender the older man is deaf too and isn't comfortable speaking. Not the usual "I don't work here lady" story, but it was something wholesome I figured you guys might enjoy. The rest of the evening that guy got his drinks and later was picked up by his partner / brother, roommate, whatever. We've seen him and the other guy around the Huddle House quite a bit when we went to eat there. By this time we were also finished and decided on Huddle House. Lo and behold, both our parties wind up at Huddle House within a few minutes apart from each other. At least at Huddle House, our specific server that evening knew some basic signing and was able to assist all parties involved without relying on interpretation, nor writing notes back and forth like school children. Edit, me saying this is important isn't about being important to the story, but more important to my daily life dealing with people. Clearing it out so it's not confusing. Sorry. And there we have it, a whole bunch of wholesome stories. I just wanted to get these out there. As I said before, there's a lot of negativity. I see it all over the place now in our daily lives. So let's get some of that wholesome stories back out there, because why the hell not, right? I hope you enjoyed them. If you did, please consider hitting that like, subscribe and the notification bell and helping this channel out. And I will keep it coming your way. Thank you very much, guys. Take care of yourselves. Much love.